Welcome to the second episode of the Optimise Stars Tips and Tricks series. Today we're going to look into reading comprehension. I'm sure you will agree with me when I say that understanding written texts is often a major challenge for Cambridge exam candidates. Now, I believe there are 3 reasons for this. Reason number 1, general reading habits among teenagers. Let's face it, not many teenagers read outside the classroom and for pleasure. In fact, very few teenagers read at all, and even if they do, they tend to do it rather superficially. Reason number 2 is the ineffective use of reading strategies. Now, due to the limited reading practice, students have problems with adjusting the way they read with the purpose of reading. In other words, an effective reader is able to determine how to approach a text based on the tasks he or she has. Students, like I said, due to the fact that they do not read that much outside the classroom, often fail to adjust that reading technique to what is actually expected from them. Reason number 3 will be the inability to infer meanings. Now, the way reading skills progress in general, along with the linguistic proficiency, is from simple linguistic decoding to inferencing implicit meanings. In other words, it takes a lot of time, also linguistic knowledge, a lot of careful reading, to be able to perform such skills as determining the writer's attitude or the writer's opinion, or determining the tone of the message. All of these take a lot of time and quite a lot of practice to be developed. So how can we help? Now let me present 3 guidelines which correspond to the 3 problems that I have just described. Tip number 1, encourage extensive reading. Extensive reading is, by definition, an approach in which students read longer texts in their free time and for pleasure. The texts that students need during extensive reading are supposed to be enjoyable and quite easy linguistically, so that they do not need to think about the language too much. The idea behind it is that the more students read, the more fluent readers they become, and their general text comprehension skills improve. So how can we incorporate extensive reading into a language course? There are 2 options. Option number 1 is to devote some slots during the lessons, like in the classroom, to extensive reading. During that time, each student takes their own book and reads it for pleasure at their own pace for 10 or 15 minutes. Option number 2 is to set up a class library. Now, consider all the resources that you have and all the materials that are available to you, and perhaps you will be able to set up a graded readers classroom library. The idea of such a classroom is for students to borrow books and take them home. They can borrow books that actually interest them, of their own choice, and therefore read at home and for pleasure. Tip number 2, practice various reading techniques. Different types of comprehension questions require different reading techniques. There are 2 major reading techniques that need to be trained for the purpose of Cambridge exams. The first one, skimming, the second one, scanning. In skimming, students glance rapidly through a text in order to determine its general message. In scanning, students read the text selectively in order to find particular pieces of information. Therefore, it is absolutely vital to provide students with sufficient explicit training in both of these reading techniques. Take a look at the example on the slide. In this sequence of activities, students are explicitly told what skimming is and when to use it. However, a mere introduction of the concept is not enough. We need to make sure that students really know which reading technique is required in each question. Therefore, one of the pre-reading activities you may do is to ask questions, to read the multiple choice questions and say which reading technique is necessary to answer each of the questions in the task. As a pre-reading activity to the task you can now see on the screen, you may ask the students to read the multiple choice questions carefully in order to determine which technique they will use for each of the questions. Tip number 3, promote deeper processing. Extracting meaning beyond the sentence level, as well as inferencing hidden messages, require quite a lot of careful reading and a great deal of text analysis. Therefore, in order to help the learners answer the questions about the writer's attitudes, the writer's opinion, the tone of the message, the purpose of the text, the implications made by the author, it would be a good idea to put down the answering process into smaller bits. So, for example, when the students are supposed to answer a question like this one, we may ask them to, first of all, underline all the relevant parts of the text where they could find the answers, and also explain why they reject all the other options. Such a procedure will help the learners to demonstrate their thinking processes, but it will also allow you as a teacher and an educator to guide your learners through the discovery of meaning. These were the 3 major teaching strategies that I wanted to share in this video. First of all, make your students read as much as possible. Secondly, introduce various types of approaching a text and various techniques for reading. And third, engage students in some kind of text analysis and task analysis, because this definitely helps them score better results during their exams. That's it for today. I hope you will find the tips and tricks from this video useful, and I also hope I will see you in the next episode of the Optimise Star series.